Hey, I just wanted to let you know that you're not as free as you might think. Every thought you have, every desire you pursue, and every fear you feel might have been planted in your mind by notes. It's like a kind of invisible force that guides the world, but most of us don't even notice it. It's in every conversation you have, every ad you see, and every decision you make. So, even though you might feel like you're thinking freely, it's important to remember that who you think you know or what you think you know might not always be the whole picture. Do you ever wonder how strong your mind is? It's incredible how much our perception of reality can be influenced. This book is a real eye-opener. It's not just another generic manual on persuasion. It's a journey into the unknown, where you'll discover strategies that even the smartest minds haven't used before. Darkest is a powerful tool that can be used to control societies and build empires. With the right approach, it can be a force for good, allowing you to influence others in a positive way. However, it's important to use it responsibly and not abuse it. If you do, it can become a tool of domination, just like in a game of chess. Every decision you make and every action you take should be with your best interests in mind. Have you ever felt like you didn't really have a say in your own life? Like you were caught up in something you didn't even create? It's like there's a bigger plan going on, isn't it? Whether it's politics, advertising, or religion, it feels like manipulation is everywhere. It's like those in charge are using our minds to make us believe that our thoughts and feelings are just normal, when they are not. Our decisions may seem spontaneous, but they are actually guided by a higher power. This book is like a key that unlocks the matrix you've always been part of. If you're reading this, you have two options: keep going in the same direction, or open your eyes and see the world differently. Once you cross that threshold, you won't be able to go back to how things were before. You'll start trusting people and your beliefs in a whole new way. I know you already know this, but it's important to remember that even your deepest feelings were implanted in your mind without your awareness. This is because manipulation is not only a technique, but it's also the basis of civilization. Every word you read in a book, every image you see on a screen, and each phrase said by a leader, influencer, or even someone close to you has a purpose. There is no communication without intention. The question is not if they are manipulating, the question is who is. I'm a big believer in the power of persuasion. I'm not a fan of force or manipulation. Instead, I work to understand people's motivations and beliefs, and I help them see the choice as their own. It's not magic or hypnosis, but rather a blend of psychology, language, and mental strategies. Have you ever wondered how people can influence others so effortlessly? It's a skill that politicians often master. You might be wondering how some brands can stay so popular. The answer is simple: they sell empty promises and remain chosen. Other brands make you pay for products you don't even need. The key is understanding how your mind works better than you. This book will teach you handling techniques that you can use in your everyday life. These are real tools used by most influential people in the world. Vendors that make you buy, leaders that create seductive movements that get what. Publicists want to see design business trends that they can control. They want to play in a level where the majority of people know there's a game, but here's the most terrifying part: you don't need to be a genius to use manipulation. You don't need to have a degree in psychology or special skills. All you need to do is see the structure behind reality, learn the rules of the game, and apply them without fear. There are those who will, and that's okay. I know that the knowledge you're about to receive might feel a bit risky, and that's totally normal. It's important to remember that anything we learn can be used for good or for bad. Just like any tool, it can be used to build or to break. It can set you free or lock you in. It can be the architect of your destiny or the one who carries out others' dreams. The choice is yours, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. Hey, I want you to know that you can use this to help you grow and find the life that's best for you. It'll help you share your light with the world, but first, let me tell you something important: the world isn't a fair place. It's not about being the most honest or the kindest person. It's about understanding how the mind works. Human. Use it to find the life you want. Welcome to the other side of the mirror, Chapter 1. Here, your brain is like a machine. It's set to the year 1953, and it's in a cold room with no windows. It's just illuminated by a pendant lamp. A man sits pensively at a metal table. His name is Alexander Petrov. captain of the intelligence service, a man who has always been loyal to his country. Now, however, he is a prisoner of war. What's incredible is not that he was captured, but that his captors did nothing. There are no shouts, no blows, no torture, just quiet conversations. Every day, during the same cozy hours, they feel it in this same room. They ask questions, and talk about history. History shows you files, versions of reality that you had never considered at first. Alexander Rai resists anything. He knows who he knows. He knows his truth, but the days pass. The guards pass them with respect. The interrogators offer you cigarettes and treat you like a friend, not a prisoner. As time goes by, the arguments begin too. It all seems a lot more reasonable and logical now. There are documents, photos, and a small detail in your memory that doesn't quite add up. Things can change over time, you know. A month later, you're having nightmares and waking up in the early morning, wondering if your country might have been a bit dishonest. You start to doubt everything you believed before. 2 months later, Alexander. Hey, before you reject something without thinking, why not take a step back and ask yourself some questions? See if you can open your mind and feel for the person who's discovering a new, broader perspective on life. It's like they've finally broken free from the chains of their mind, becoming a free man. After just 3 months, you can see a shift in his voice and the words he speaks. They no longer sound the same, and he doesn't seem as proud of his country or his people as he used to be. It's like his mission has changed, and everything seems a bit more complicated. Later on, he chooses to side with the enemy, not because they forced him, but because he genuinely believes it's the right choice. A few months later, on TV, he shares a message with the world. He talks about the mistakes his nation has made and how the truth has come out. He promises that he's always been on the right side, that his captors have released him, but he hasn't been released. He says they've reprogrammed him. They haven't hurt him. He didn't. They just use a little bit of your mind, but now it's not yours anymore. Alexander Petrov wasn't the only one. This has happened before, and it will happen again. What happened is because of a basic human tendency. Your mind can be influenced. It's not that they forced you to do things, but how they influenced you. There was no violence, and there were no threats. Alexander Petrov was not an isolated case. It was not the first, nor would it be the last. What happened is the result of a universal principle: the human mind is programmable. It's not that they have manipulated your history, but how it was manipulated. There was no violence, no threats, and no coercion. There were only words, and that is enough. Your brain is not a machine of logic, although you like to think that it is. This does not make decisions rational or evaluate each piece of information objectively. Your mind works like software that constantly updates itself with what it receives and rewrites its code with each new experience, conversation, or story. I know you're a strong person, and you're doing the best you can. You're not a machine, and you don't make decisions based on logic or objectivity. Your mind is like software that's always updating and rewriting its code based on new experiences, conversations, and stories. You're a good listener, and you're doing your best to understand your will. If anyone knows what words to use at what time and how to make the proceedings emotionally engaging, it's you. You can enter your mind without even realizing it. That's how manipulation works, not with shouts or threats, but with repetition, exhibition, and logic disguised as certainty. Alexander's mind. You know how sometimes you might have an idea that seems a bit off, like it's not quite fitting with everything else you're thinking. Well, that's just your mind trying to make sense of things. It's like you're trying to understand what's going on in your head, and sometimes, you might catch yourself thinking about something that just didn't seem right before, but now it does. It's like a slow process of thinking, what was that idea I had? One idea leads to another, and you start to notice these little contradictions in your memory, these doubts that weren't there before. It's like your mind is trying to make everything fit, and when it feels comfortable and everything seems under control, you might feel like you're in a groove. But then, something changes, and you start to feel a bit off, like you're not quite sure what's going on in your head. And you start to wonder, hey, has this happened to me before? How often has this been happening? It's not easy to see when this happens, and it's totally normal to feel a bit lost. It's like you're in a new environment, and you're trying to figure out how to fit in. You start to feel like you're not in control, and it's hard to remember exactly when it all started. You might find yourself changing your mind a lot, or defending ideas that feel like they're just in your head. It's like you're trying to convince yourself that what you thought was ridiculous a few months ago is actually real. But it's important to remember that these changes don't happen overnight. It's not just a coincidence, or a natural evolution. It's a process of programming, and it's something we can all work on together. Have you ever had a change of heart without realizing it? Maybe you've defended ideas that, in reality, weren't even in your head. Or perhaps you've felt like something that used to seem silly has somehow become sensible. It's like these ideas just appear out of nowhere and then get stronger over time. And the scary thing is, you might not even notice when they happen. Just look at your life. Every time you see an ad and feels the urge to buy something you didn't even know you needed, it's like you've been programmed. Or when a politician somehow makes you believe that the problem. Have you ever noticed how ideas can appear out of nowhere? They are implanted in our minds, nurtured over time, and can become deeply ingrained. It's interesting how sometimes we don't even realize when they happen. Take, for example, when you see an ad and feel the urge to buy something you hadn't considered before. Or when a politician convinces you that the problem is on the other side, even though you thought it was the opposite just months ago. Or when an influencer sells you an idea that you hadn't considered before, but suddenly it seems completely logical. This kind of programming isn't just in politics or marketing, it's everywhere. Even the music you listen to can have a similar effect. The lyrics of your favorite songs might be repeating themselves in your mind. Have you ever thought about how different people's experiences can influence our perspectives? For example, think about the influencers you follow. They sell you ideas that you hadn't thought of before, but now they seem totally reasonable. It's not just in politics or marketing, it's in everything. Even music can shape how you see love, success, happiness, and pain. Think about the movies and series you watch. How many of your values have been influenced by the characters you've seen on screen? How many of your goals, fears, and beliefs have been shaped by stories designed by others? And now, think about the social media you consume. Think about how social networks have influenced your life. For example, imagine if two people both created an account on the same platform. One person starts following pages about entrepreneurship and personal growth, while the other follows pages of sensational news and debates about politicians. After 2 months, their lives are completely different. They live in the same world, but their minds are in different places. Picture this: two people create an account on the same platform. One starts following pages about entrepreneurship and growth, while the other starts following pages about sensational news and debates between politicians. 2 months later, their realities are completely different. They might be living in the same world, but their minds are in different places. Your beliefs, concerns, and emotions have been shaped by what you've consumed. It's not about you deciding, but about the content you've been exposed to. Algorithms aren't neutral. They show you what interests you and what they want you to be interested in. They know what they want you to know. If they show you certain ideas one time and then another, it's because they are designed to influence you. Beliefs about opposite universes, concerns, and emotions have been influenced by outside influences. Algorithms aren't neutral. They show you what interests you and what they want you to be interested in. If they show you certain ideas one time and then another, you might start to accept them without realizing it. This is how modern-day manipulation works. It doesn't force you to think a certain way, it just creates an environment where you might reach conclusions that align with the influencer's goals. You might feel sure that you haven't been influenced, but in reality, you've been influenced. You might not even realize it's happening. It's like they're shaping the way you think, and you're not even aware of it. They create an environment, and you start thinking the way they want you to. You might think you're in control of your mind, but in reality, you're just following the ideas they've planted in your head. If you believe that your mind is completely yours, you might be more susceptible to this kind of manipulation. It's important to understand that no one has complete control over your thoughts, opinions, beliefs, or values. Your thoughts, opinions, and values have been shaped by so many things, like the family you were born into, the culture around you, the books you read, the movies you watched, the music you heard, the teachers you had, the friends you grew up with, every conversation you had, and the ideas you repeated in different situations. Most of us don't really think about how all of this has shaped our minds. Most people never think about this. They just live their lives, defending ideas that didn't choose them, acting on impulses they got from their childhood. But now that you know, you have two options. You can ignore it and continue living the way you have been, believing that your thoughts are yours, that your choices are spontaneous, and that you are a rational individual. You can either choose to not change at all, which keeps the world in balance, or you can start seeing the hidden code behind reality. If your mind has been programmed without you realizing it, you can also reprogram it to help you. You can take control of your thoughts and choose what ideas you allow into your head. The easiest option is to not change anything. This keeps the world in balance. The other option is to start seeing the code behind reality. This is because your mind may have been scheduled without you noticing. You can also reprogram it in your favor. You can take control of the process. You can choose what ideas allow you to enter your head. You can filter what information you consume. You can decide which messages you accept and which ones you reject. But before being able to do that, first you need to see the game board. This is the real reason you are here. From this point, this book will be your weapon. It will help you not to become paranoid. It will help you not to distrust everything. It will help you learn to move in a world where everyone tries to influence in a way that, it's like we're all playing a game, and we're trying to figure out how to play it. We're absorbing information, accepting some, and rejecting others. But before we can do that, we need to understand the game board. This book is like a tool for navigating the world, helping us not to be paranoid or distrustful, but to understand how we're all influenced by others. It's like we're all playing a game, and if we don't take control of our minds, someone else will. This is just the start, or chapter 2, how a thought in your mind works. We all want to believe that our ideas belong to us. We think we're independent, that we arrive at our conclusions after a deep analysis, and that our beliefs are the result of our intelligence. We like to think that our decisions are based on our own logic, not on outside influences. But the truth is, our minds are actually pretty complex. They are not isolated systems where ideas just pop up. Instead, our minds are like sponges, soaking up information and turning it into beliefs. And from the moment we're born, we start soaking up all this information. We all make decisions based on our logic, but our brains are actually very different from how we might think. Our brains are like sponges, soaking up information and turning it into beliefs about the world around us. From the moment we're born, we start soaking up the world around us. We don't question what we see or hear, we just take it in. Our brains don't objectively filter information, they process it within the context of the world we live in, which has been shaped by other people. We grow up in families and societies that teach us what is good and bad, what is acceptable, and so on. We don't really question what we see. We just take in information and accept it without really thinking about it. Our minds don't always objectively filter information. This is because we grow up in different contexts, with different people telling us what's good and what's bad, and what's acceptable and what's not. We're also influenced by belief systems that are already in place by the time we're born. Every word we hear, every image we see, and every emotion we feel leaves a little mark in our mind. We can't avoid information. It enters and stores in our minds, forming the base on which we will build our ideas in the world. And this is where the real magic happens. When we think we're thinking about reality, we're actually remembering. There's no such thing as a pure thought, separate from the outside world. Our thoughts are usually a mix of memories, impressions, and bits of information that have been planted in our minds over time. People don't think or remember in a vacuum, we adapt and repeat what we believe. When we think about reality, we're actually remembering that there's no such thing as pure thought. It's all influenced by outside factors, and that's what we call thinking. It's a mix of memories, impressions, and bits and pieces of information that have been planted in our minds over time. People don't just think up ideas from scratch, they adapt and repeat what they believe. It's our way of reasoning, and often, it's just a reflection of what we've heard before. The great manipulators have understood this better than anyone. They know that to implement a thought in someone's mind, you don't have to force them to believe in something right away. It's enough to expose them to the idea in different contexts, one at a time. It's a gentle, gradual process, like a drip of information that over time becomes a deep conviction. Someone who's never thought about an idea might reject it at first, but if it's presented in different ways and by different people, it might eventually sink in. It's a gentle, gradual process, and it's like your mind is gradually changing, until one day, you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I thought that way. The mind doesn't really differentiate between what's real and what's not, you know. It's like a subtle change that happens over time. It's like a drip of information, and eventually, it becomes a part of your reality. It's like when you hear an idea and then you hear it everywhere, and it starts to feel like it's true. What was once strange or unfamiliar becomes familiar. It's a pretty interesting process, and it's been used in all sorts of things, like politics, advertising, religion, relationships, and even systems that try to influence how we think. The most interesting thing is that this process is actually quite dangerous. It's like we're all in a bubble, not realizing we're being influenced. It's so subtle, we don't even feel it. We don't feel pressured, there's no fight in us. It's like a slow shift in how we see things, and before we know it, we're all for something we didn't even think about months ago. Our mind doesn't really see the difference between what's real and what's not. It's interesting how we often don't realize when we're being influenced. It's like our minds are tricked into seeing something as true just because it's been said a lot. This is something political regimes, corporations, religious leaders, and manipulators have learned to use in all areas of life. They don't have to prove something's true, they just have to make it sound true. And publicists are really good at this. It's like we buy things because have you ever noticed how we often hear the same things over and over again? It's almost like if something is said enough times, it starts to seem true. This is something political regimes, corporations, religious leaders, and manipulators have figured out. They don't need to prove that something is true, they just need to make it sound true. Publicists are experts at this. We don't buy things because we've thought about buying them. We buy them because we've seen them so many times that they've become a part of our minds. If you see an advertisement for a brand once, it might not catch your attention, but if you see it over and over again, or hear about it from someone you look up to, your mind starts to take it in. Eventually, it becomes a logical choice for you. You might not have thought it through, but that's okay. The idea of buying something might have popped into your head a few times, but it didn't really sink in. If you see an ad for a brand over and over, though, you might start to think about it. If you hear about it from someone you look up to, you might start to see it as a logical choice. When you finally decide to buy, you might feel like you made the decision yourself. But the truth is, your mind has been programmed to think that way. The government works in a similar way. You don't need people to think critically, you just need to repeat an idea without questioning it. You might not have thought about it from an objective point of view, but when you finally make a purchase, you feel like you've made a decision on your own. But the truth is, your mind has been programmed to think that way. The government works in a similar way. You don't need people to think critically, you just need to repeat an idea without questioning it. It's enough to use certain terms strategically. If a movement is repeatedly described as a threat in the afternoon or early evening, people will begin to see it as such, even without evidence. If a person is labeled in a specific way, your reputation will remain sealed in the collective mind. Language communicates fear, and fear is the most powerful. It's important to use certain terms in the right way. If a movement is always described as a threat, people will start to see it that way, even if there's no proof. If someone is labeled in a certain way, their reputation will be affected. Language can influence how we think. Program fear is a powerful way to make people believe in certain ideas. A government that wants to increase its control over the population won't immediately impose new rules. First, they need people to feel like there's an invisible threat. They need to make people feel like there's a hidden danger. News will start to talk about the risks of chaos and crisis. They'll repeat this message over and over again, and when people feel fear, they'll start to believe it. A government that wants to increase its control over the population doesn't immediately impose new rules. First, they have to get people to feel like there's an invisible, latent danger. Then, they start talking about the risks of chaos and crisis in the news. They'll keep repeating this message over and over, and when people feel afraid, they'll offer solutions. This is exactly what was planned from the beginning. The control doesn't happen immediately. It makes people wish. Words aren't neutral, they are loaded with intention. It's not the same to say expend social or investment in people. They can call a rebel group a terrorist. The way something is appointed is the way it will be perceived. Manipulators. It's important to understand that they don't aim to win logical debates. Instead, they try to win by using emotions and repetition. But manipulation isn't just something that happens on a big scale in relationships, it's something that happens all the time in our personal lives. An emotional manipulator doesn't tell you directly what you should think, they shape your perception with carefully chosen phrases. If someone wants to make you doubt yourself, it's important to understand that manipulators don't aim to win logical arguments. Instead, they try to win by appealing to emotions and repetition. This kind of manipulation isn't just limited to big relationships, it's something that happens all the time in our personal lives. An emotional manipulator won't come right out and tell you what to think, but they'll subtly shape your perception with carefully chosen phrases. If they want to make you doubt yourself, they might not say you're insecure directly. Instead, they'll hint at it with subtle comments like, "Why did it take you so long to reply?" Or "It seems like others don't take you seriously." They'll make you question your own judgment, and after you've heard it enough times, you might start to feel insecure without even realizing it. For example, a boss who wants you to work more hours without paying you extra might immediately order it, but then they'll frequently mention how important the project is and how they trust you more than others. They might also bring up how others have sacrificed their time for the company. At the end of the day, you're the one who'll decide to stay late, believing that it was your idea. The power of repetition is something you can use to your advantage. It's not about forcing someone to believe something immediately, but rather building an environment where that idea naturally emerges. When you think you've reached a conclusion, that's when the manipulation has been more effective. If someone tells you directly what to think, you're likely to resist. But if you're exposed to an idea little by little, in a way that involves repeated, disguised information, conversation, or other methods, your mind will absorb it without questioning it when the time comes. When you're all about defending the as your own, you won't even remember how it was implanted. The great strategists of the world know that the key to manipulating the masses isn't about forcing something on them, but rather, showing them. You don't need to convince someone in a single day. You just need to surround them with the idea for enough time. If a message is repeated from multiple sources, from different angles, and in different formats, it becomes an unquestionable truth. This is something that vendors understand. They don't force you to buy a product. They simply put it in front of you, over and over again, on television, on networks, and on social media. When you finally decide to buy something, it might feel like a spontaneous decision. Politicians know that people need to feel connected to a story, not to think logically. If a lie is repeated often enough, it might start to feel true. This is something you might notice in your relationships. A manipulator won't come right out and ask for what they want, but they'll make you doubt yourself. Little doubts won't make you change your mind. You know, it's amazing how our behavior can reveal ideas to us over and over again until we finally feel like it's our own decision. Once you grasp this, you'll see how it's a part of every area of your life. So, the next time you're passionate about an idea, just pause and ask yourself, when did I first hear this? How did I come to this conclusion? Is it truly my own, or has it been planted in my mind without my knowledge? If it turns out that your mind has been influenced by external forces without your consent, then the most crucial question you need to ask is, what thoughts are truly my own? Now that you understand how it works, you've got two options: you can either ignore it or face it. You can keep on living your best life by taking charge of your environment and your mind. You can choose to be a passive recipient of outside programming, or you can take control of your thoughts and your life. Filter out the noise, analyze the information you consume, and become aware of how your perception is shaped in each moment. This book will be your guide on the second path, because you'll learn to recognize manipulation in others and you'll discover how to use these same techniques to shape your own reality. Welcome to the next level of the game. Chapter 3, The Power of Emotion in the Manipulation. A businessman is enjoying a night out, and he gets a call in the middle of the morning. Someone on the other end tells him that they've seen some strange activity at a home, and they think it might be something dangerous, like thieves. They tell him that his family might be in danger. Without thinking too much, The man grabs his coat and starts driving. Your mind is racing, and you're not thinking straight. You feel your hands shaking, and your heart is pounding as you drive. When you get to your house, you see a figure in your garden. You don't stop to think, you just grab a flashlight and run. You don't analyze or evaluate, you just react. You shout, in the night air, the figure in the shadow runs in chaos. Top with a can of gasoline that he always keeps in the garage to make your weekend barbecues. The gasoline spills without noticing it. Mine continues in a state of panic. What do you think is to protect your home and family? In the night air, the figure in the shadow runs, in chaos. Top with a can of gasoline that he always keeps in the garage to make your weekend barbecues. Without noticing, gasoline spills. Mine continues in a state of panic. What do you think is to protect your home? Your family releases the metal flashlight on the floor, and in a second, everything is engulfed in flames. Minutes later, the firefighters arrive, but his house is already late and in ruins. Only then, when everything is consumed, do they inform him that there were never thieves. Everything was a confusion. The shadow he saw in the garden was his own dog, which had left when he heard the car and ran to see him arrive. The ashes in front of him are a heartbreaking sight. He looks at his family, who are clearly devastated by the destruction of their home and the loss of their way of life. It's hard to understand the fear that made him act without thinking. This story is a reminder that such things happen to many people. We are human, and we don't always think things through. We often rely on our emotions, even if we know it's not the best approach. It's important to act quickly and take action. Our instincts are there to help us survive. Fear is a natural reaction, but it's not the only one. Anger and blame are also natural reactions. Each of these emotions can guide our behavior. We can use these emotions to make decisions without being selfish. You might remember once when you made a quick decision and then asked yourself, why did I buy that thing I didn't need? It's important to remember that sometimes we get angry with someone without really thinking about the situation. Our emotions can influence how we see things, but that doesn't mean we're wrong. Everyone experiences the world differently, and that's okay. Have you ever noticed how strong emotions can sometimes cloud our logical thinking? It's like our minds pause to consider whether something is truly logical or not. This is something that manipulators have always known and used to their advantage. They don't try to win discussions with rational arguments or data. They understand that emotions can be a powerful tool when they are skillfully directed. If someone can make you feel a certain way, you might find yourself doing what they ask. You know how sometimes things can make you feel really passionate about a cause. That's because they are tapping into something deep within you. But here's the thing, sometimes, when you're feeling that strong emotion, it can lead you to make decisions without thinking too much about the consequences. It's like you're on autopilot, and you don't even realize that your actions are being influenced by what's going on around you. You might think you're making decisions based on logic and without outside influence, but the truth is, you're actually being guided by emotions, attention, and the influence of others. Setting aside the notes, emotions can have a powerful effect on how we perceive reality. Sometimes, it's the little things that can make a big difference. If you're able to evoke strong emotions in someone, it can influence how they see the world. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where, no matter how much you tried to convince them, it felt like they just weren't interested? You're setting without what? Emotions modify our perception of reality, and they create it. A truth is clear or obvious only to the degree that it activates a strong emotion in another person. If you've ever argued with someone and felt like, regardless of the arguments, they simply don't want to listen, then you know that emotions, not logic, are what's at play. The truth stops when the mind is dominated by feelings. Fear makes any danger seem real, even if it's not, and anger makes any adversary seem like an enemy, regardless of his true intention. We accept punishments that NC should accept, and I wish we were blind to warnings. It's obvious when an emotion is intense enough, and everything else. The information isn't as important as the feelings. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and react without thinking. Any idea or thought that makes you feel good is seen as true. Politicians know this. They might not lie, but they do try to make people feel a certain way. If they want people to support an unpopular decision, they have to make people feel a strong emotion that justifies it. If you're interested in influencing the behavior of a society, One strategy is to create fear. If you're looking to elicit a strong reaction from people, particularly against an adversary, generating hate can be a useful tool. If you're trying to divert the attention of the public from a pressing issue, fomenting outrage around a less relevant issue can be a helpful strategy. It's interesting to observe how this plays out on social networks. Have you ever seen a video or publication designed to elicit anger? Have you ever felt the urge to share something just because it made you feel angry? He felt fear or hope. It's the emotional response that often drives our actions, and once we're caught up in it, we can't help but spread the message and reinforce the narrative. It's like we're part of the mechanism, going along with it without really questioning it. It's like advertising works the same way. It doesn't sell products, it sells emotions. So, don't buy a perfume just because you need to smell good. Buy it because you love the scent. You know how it ISO your companies sell the image of desire and attraction, and trust. We all know that you don't buy a car for functionality, you buy it because they've convinced you that it represents status, success, and power. And it's the same with clothes. We don't buy them for our needs because they've implanted the idea that our image defines us. Value. Think of a recent commercial that you've seen. Was it an ad that only talked about the product in a technical way? I know how hard it is to get through all those modern commercials that don't even mention the product until the end. They are just full of stories, emotional moments, and laughter. They make you feel nostalgic and dream of a better life. But if they can get you to feel something, they can achieve what you remember. It's the same with brands. A manipulator will never give you logic. Modern commercials are so different from what we used to see. They don't just show the product, they tell stories, share emotional moments, and make us laugh. They evoke nostalgia and make us dream of a better life. They know that if they can get us to feel something, they can achieve their goal. The same is true in our personal relationships. A manipulator will never give you a logical reason to do what he wants. He'll simply activate an emotion in you and use the fault to make you feel responsible for your happiness. He'll use sadness to make you yield to his demands and use anger to make you react in a way that can be blamed later. Emotions influence not only how we perceive things, but also our memory. An emotionally intense event is more strongly recorded in our memory. Hey, I know this can be tricky. Sometimes we remember certain things and forget others. We can associate emotions with certain moments, reinforce a narrative, and even see the past in a different way by changing the emotion with which we remember something. Have you ever thought about how many times one person has remembered something you did in a way that you did not remember exactly the same? It may not seem like a big deal, but the way you were made to feel. Hey, it's totally normal to feel guilty when you think you overlooked something important. The way we remember a fact is what makes it so impactful for us. When our emotions are strong and don't let our logical side get in the way, we can influence others without even having to ask. It's like we've been taken over by our emotions. He believes that you're making your own decision, not that she's manipulating you. He feels that you're reacting to a reality that's undeniable, but that reality has been carefully built around. If someone wants to make you feel like you don't need to put yourself in real danger, all they need to do is send you messages that reinforce the idea that you are in danger. They might send you a news story here, a comment there, or a story about someone who something terrible happened little by little. Fear is a common emotion, and it's okay to feel it. It grows inside you until it feels so real that it doesn't matter if there's evidence or not. Whether or not someone wants you, it's okay to feel angry. You don't need to attack directly to feel threatened. It's natural to feel this way when you feel like something or someone is threatening what you value. It's normal to feel upset about injustice. It's also normal to put a face to your anger. When you're angry enough, you'll act without questioning, believing that you're right. It wants you to feel desire, not feel forced. It wants you to imagine how you'd feel to have what you want. It wants you to show yourself images of a better life, of pleasure you could experience, something you feel you are missing. When desire is installed in your mind, you will do what it takes to get it. In politics, fear is the most powerful tool. It's not a coincidence that there's an enemy to fear in each electoral campaign. Every so often, the media gives us a heads up about an upcoming crisis. This can be a bit scary, but it's important to remember that sometimes people might not realize the full impact of what they are doing. When society is filled with fear, it can make people less willing to speak up or take action. Advertising is a powerful tool, and it's used to create desire. It's not just about selling a product, but also evoking an emotion or creating a sense of connection. We might feel more attracted to a product, feel more important when we have a certain phone, or feel like we belong to a special group when we have a certain membership. I totally get it. Sometimes it's hard to know what to share or how to respond to things you see on social networks. But here's the thing, if you want to get the word out there, being controversial can actually help. It's not about whether the information is true or false. What matters is that it sparks a strong reaction. And the more intense the emotion, the more people will share it. Social networks have this amazing ability to sense and understand emotions. They can tell what kind of news will get more clicks. Words can really stir things up, can't they? It's fascinating how we can understand images so intuitively. They are like a visual language we can all speak. They are so powerful because they show us exactly what we need to see to feel it in our bones. That's where we, as readers, can pause and ask ourselves, have I ever felt an emotion without realizing it was genuine? Maybe it was triggered by something you saw online, or maybe it was based on facts you read somewhere. What made you feel those facts? Emotions have a big influence on how we see things, and they can even make us act before we think. Think about it, what parts of your life have been shaped by the feelings of others? You might be surprised to learn that your mind can be programmed and that thoughts can be implanted without you realizing it. Now, you know that emotions are the most powerful channel for that to happen. If emotions have guided your thoughts up to now, then a big part of who you really are belongs to them. Hey, friend. When you're going through those intense emotions, it's always a good idea to ask yourself a few things. Where did that emotion come from? Who benefits from it? What conclusion is pushing you? If you don't take charge of your emotions, someone else might do it for you. That's where the real game of manipulation comes in. But don't worry, my friend. You've got this. In Chapter 4, we're going to talk about how to handle it. Most people see manipulation as something negative, an act of control that tries to exploit others. But, I know it can be tricky to understand, but manipulation isn't necessarily good or bad. It's a tool, a skill that can be used to create opportunities, build relationships, and achieve objectives without generating conflict. The key is not to reject it, but to understand and apply it in a way that's intelligent and ethical. Think for a moment, in each conversation, negotiation, and decision you make, there are forces shaping your perception. You can avoid falling into deception and manipulation by learning to use these same strategies to influence your environment. We've all been there, those moments when you realize that telling the truth just isn't enough to convince others. Whether it's a friendly chat, a job interview, or a negotiation, being right isn't the goal. What matters most is how others perceive you. So, what can you say when you've got it down? Have you ever had that moment when you realize that just telling the truth isn't enough? It might be when you're chatting with a friend, in a job interview, or during a negotiation. It's not about being right, but about how others see you. What if you could present your ideas in a way that connects with people and makes them feel like the decision was theirs? That's what a lot of people understand by persuasion. It's a real power in football. There's a strategy that the best coaches in the world have perfected. Even Pep Guardiola has described it. He said that the perfect goal is not the one that arises from a genius individual, but the one that is built with the intervention of the entire team. The key is not to attack directly, but to move the ball, wear out the rival, do that their players react until they are vulnerable, and then, when they are less ready, deliver the final blow. It's all about working together, not fighting. You don't have to be forceful, you just need to be in control of the situation until the outcome is clear. This same idea works in business, politics, and personal relationships. The most important thing isn't to win, but to guide the conversation in a way that moves things forward. You don't have to force anything, you just need to be in control of the conversation. You can help others reach the conclusion they are looking for without them realizing that you're guiding them. If you understand how manipulation works, you can use it to your advantage. You can share your ideas and influence the way others see things. If you understand how manipulation works, you can use it to your advantage. You can make your ideas heard and influence others without resorting to deceit or taking advantage of them. It's all about understanding how to present your ideas in a way that others will accept them. The world doesn't work based on truth, but on perception. You can have the best ideas, the best plans, and the most compelling arguments, but if you don't know how to present them, they are no good. The world is a delicate place, and it's important to be gentle when you share your ideas. It's not about forcing the issue. It's about seeing things the way they are. You can have the best ideas, the best plans, the most solid arguments, but if you don't know how to present them, they won't work. When you use manipulation, it's not about being sneaky. It's about being smart. It's not about saying what's true or false, but knowing how to say it in a way that makes others hear and accept what you're saying. Power isn't about forcing others to see things the way you want them to. It's about making others feel what you want to feel. That's what sets great strategists apart. They don't just try to force their ideas on others. Imagine you're in a negotiation. If you ask directly for what you want, you're likely to face resistance. But you can create the right environment by making others feel like the decision is theirs and not forced on them. You can make a positive difference in the world by being a good conversationalist. This is true for all areas of life, including relationships, personal discussions, and business. When you're trying to win an argument, it's important to remember that you don't have to be the one who's being forceful. Instead, focus on making the other person feel understood. In business, don't be the one who puts pressure on their customers. Instead, show them that your product is the solution they've been looking for. Remember the last time someone convinced you to do something, made you feel pressured, or got you to do something you didn't want to do. I'm so glad you're on board with this decision. It feels like a beautiful revelation, doesn't it? There's a lovely story that illustrates this principle perfectly. There was a father who wanted his child to spend less time playing video games and more time reading books. At first, he tried the method directly, telling his child how important reading was and that he had to stop playing games. He said that if his child continued playing games, he would lose his time. But his son ignored him every time he tried to convince him. He tried it a few times, but nothing worked. Then, one day, he left an open book on the table with a story that had to do with things that interested him. He didn't say a word. He just left the book there. We left him there for a few days, and his son, curious as a cat, started reading it. When he finished, he asked if he had more books. By the time the child had read on his own, he wasn't obligated to read anymore. We simply presented the opportunity in a way that was attractive. That's the true art of influencing others. You don't force them, you create the right environment so that the other person arrives at the decision that you want. The most effective strategies of manipulation aren't aggressive or obvious, they are subtle and indirect. They are based on guiding the flow of the conversation, creating expectations, and getting the other to feel like they are making the right decision. Hey, just so you know, it's all good if you get this. You can totally use manipulation to your advantage in any area of your life. It's not about controlling others, but making sure your ideas are heard and accepted. It's not about deceiving, but knowing how to present the truth in a way that's more effective. So, if you understand manipulation, you'll find it much more effective. It's not about manipulating people to make them act against their will, but about influencing your perception to achieve agreements, improve relationships, and position yourself in an environment where ideas are not only important, but also accepted and adopted. I understand that most people think communication is all about words, but I've found that it's really about emotions. If you can make someone feel what you want to convey, then you've won. It's not about forcing your ideas on anyone, it's about making people feel something positive. When it comes to social networks, the content that spreads the most is the most informative or the most heartfelt. But the content that makes people laugh or feel surprised is the most popular. Fear is designed to make people react right away, before they even have time to think. Whether a message touches the right emotional nerve and spreads without resistance is the difference. I've noticed that there are two types of people when it comes to communication, those who feel like they are not being heard, and those who feel like they are not listening. If you talk to people with pure logic, you might run into some resistance. But if you can get them to feel what you're saying, you'll probably find that the barrier disappears. Just look at how the great communicators do it. They don't explain a concept directly, they wrap it up in a story, add some images, and make it feel real. That's how they influence people. If you want to protect yourself from external manipulation, Start paying attention to how the messages are affecting you. Have you ever felt a strong emotion after reading or watching the news, or listening to someone's opinion? Maybe you asked yourself, why am I feeling this way? Well, it's normal to feel this way when you're dealing with strong emotions. But here's the good news: when you start to question where your emotions came from, you get back in control of your mind. Now, here's a helpful tip: if you want to improve your life, try sharing your ideas in a way that makes people want to listen. Try not to force your point of view on others. Instead, help them arrive at the conclusion on their own. And when asking for something, try creating an environment where they feel like they are helping. Remember, it's a choice to not try to convince others with cold logic. Instead, make others experience and hey, friend, our emotions are powerful, and they can guide us in all sorts of directions. The key to understanding this is that how you say something isn't as important as what you're saying. How you present yourself isn't as important as how you make others feel. Now that you understand this, you're at a turning point. You can either keep living without being aware of these mechanisms, or you can start applying them. You can either let the world influence you without realizing it, or you can become someone who understands the dynamics and uses them to your advantage. So, whenever you feel like someone is trying to convince you of something, just ask yourself, hey, I just wanted to let you know that sometimes the best ideas are the ones that are least obvious. It's all about understanding what emotions you can tap into to get people on board. Instead of going head to head with direct arguments, try asking yourself what emotions you need to stir up so that everyone's on the same page. Now, about Chapter 5 in the modern world and how to survive it. It's not about brute force, but about how you show up in the world. Here's something interesting: in a day's time, an idea can become true, a lie can be accepted as fact, and a person can go from hero to villain without anything tangible having happened. We've changed in the era of the invisible manipulation, where threads that control public opinion and human beings no longer need strength or imposition. Now, true power is about. Have you ever thought about how what we repeat can actually make things seem more intense? It's almost like we present things as obvious just so we can question them. It's like we're living in a world where there's so much going on around us, all designed to influence how we think, feel, and how we react to social networks. It's like we've created a society where information doesn't just search for us, but it finds us and pursues us, infiltrating our minds without us having to search for it. It's almost like the algorithm has already decided what we're going to see, what we're going to believe, and how we're going to react. If you take a look at any digital platform, you'll notice that the publications that appear are not "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that" every image, every video, and every news story out there is meant to bring out your emotions. It's not like the whole world just decided to talk about something, you know. It's usually just a small group of people or a computer program that's been talking about it. They're making us feel like we need to get involved in things we don't even understand. It's like manipulation is happening all the time, and we don't even realize it. It's not just one person trying to influence another. It's like a whole system that's set up to make us think a certain way. But don't worry, we're not going to tell you what to think. We just want to let you know that there are some things out there designed to get a reaction from you. You might find yourself thinking that they want you, arriving at the conclusion that you're making decisions when, in reality, you're following a script they've prepared for you. There's no violence, no oppression. There are just algorithms and patterns, data that reflect what others want. Your emotions might feel a bit distant, as if they weren't entirely your own. You might respond to things in a certain way, triggered by specific stimuli. If a message makes you feel afraid, you might act with caution. If you can feel outrage, you might react right away. If it makes you feel valid, you might reinforce your belief. In none of these cases, you'll have "Hey, I just wanted to ask you something. What I'm feeling right now, is it really mine, or is it something I've been exposed to?" Remember how it used to take years to build something, but now it can be done in minutes. And how a person's reputation can be destroyed so quickly with a made-up story. How a company can lose millions because of a narrative that's been created to make them look bad. And how a whole country can be taken to war because of the way something is perceived. It's kind of amazing how we don't need armors, weapons, and resources to expand and conquer territories like the great empires of history did. Today's modern empires don't need any of that. They just need to control the narrative. The way the modern world manipulates information is so subtle that even people who think they are well informed can often be their own worst victims. It's important to remember that having an opinion doesn't automatically make it rational. In reality, most opinions are shaped by critical analysis, not by being exposed to the same message over and over again. Repetition is key, but it's not the be-all and end-all. What's important is not whether something is true, but whether it's been repeated often enough to seem undeniable. These days, systems don't need to convince you directly. They just need to create an environment where the false feels logical, where the unreal feels natural, and where the truth is mixed with perception until they are indistinguishable. There are a few things happening at once that make this happen. First, the content you see is customized to fit your beliefs. If you're into something, the algorithms will show you more of it, and other stuff will be blocked. This is great because you don't have to go looking for confirmation. It'll come to you right away. I understand that it can be hard to see the reality of the situation, but I'm here to support you. It's important to remember that everyone has their own perspective, and it's okay to feel differently. You're not being manipulated, you're just discovering the truth. In today's digital age, information is everywhere, and it's all happening so quickly. We've become used to skimming instead of really absorbing things. The internet has designed a world where information is consumed in seconds, without context or nuances. Complexity has become simpler, with short phrases, shocking images, and holders designed to create an immediate response. You don't need to know the details of a history to feel like you have a solid opinion about it. All you have to do is read a viral comment, see an edited clip, or react to a tweet that reinforces your already held opinion. The third mechanism is called length manipulation, which is not just about what is said, but also how it's said. Carefully chosen words can change how you perceive an event without altering the facts. A protest can be seen as, depending on how we look at it, it could be seen as a courageous act or a violent riot. No matter how we choose to talk about it, it's important to remember that words have the power to shape our reality. Using euphemisms can soften the impact, while using words that evoke strong emotions can make us feel more connected. The way we talk about her is also important. Another tactic that can be used is to create enemies. It's human nature to form connections with those who share common struggles. If we point the finger at another group for our problems, it can create a strong bond. Campaigns, policies, media strategies, and mass movements use this principle all the time when people are busy hating an enemy. It's okay to not always know what's going on. When a lot of people are feeling angry and upset, it's a really strong tool because it makes logic seem like a threat and makes everyone think the same way, without really thinking about it. All these things happen at the same time, and it creates a society where most people don't realize that they are in a made-up world where they believe they are making their own decisions. I'm so glad you asked about the difference between the old-fashioned kind of manipulation and the modern kind. In the old days, people thought they were free, even though they were really living in a control system with no visible walls. With the old kind of manipulation, there were obvious restrictions, direct coercion, and censorship. But with the modern kind, there's no need for any of that. It's enough to shape the conversation and the information available to the majority to make decisions. And that's exactly what the system wants. It's important to remember that they want you to take action to survive in a world designed to manipulate you. The first step is to accept that it has already been manipulated. There is no total escape. Being alone is not about living in paranoia, but rather about learning to see the game. Those who believe they are out of the system are the ones trapped in it. The true power is not to avoid manipulation, but to detect it and decide if you want to play under their rules or break them. The greatest shield against manipulation is the, hey, just a friendly reminder that critical thinking isn't about saying no to everything. It's more like learning to do the right thing every time. When you get information that makes you feel a certain way, it's natural to ask yourself, what makes me feel like that? Who wins with which? I react in this way. How many times have I seen this same message in different formats? If the information you're always consuming just reinforces your beliefs and never challenges you, it might be a sign that you're not really thinking. Social networks are designed to exploit that we all have those moments when we feel unworthy, when we're compelled to share something, or when content provokes a strong reaction. Visceral is here to help you navigate these moments and protect you from being influenced by these stimuli. The key is to take a step back and think before you speak or act. Don't share without thinking, don't take a position without understanding the context, and don't leave without considering the impact. Another helpful defense mechanism is information control, which means consuming only what you're ready for. Hey, just a friendly reminder that this comes from the same sources. So, you're not being informed, you're being conditioned. Please don't trust the algorithms to decide what information to show you. The opposite view is not to change your opinion, but to make sure that you've really considered all perspectives before deciding what to believe. Please remember that manipulation not only occurs in what is said, but also in what is not said. What doesn't appear in the headlines can become a trend. What is ignored systematically is as important as what is amplified. Learn to. Hey, just a friendly reminder to pay attention to those little gaps in your knowledge. If there's a topic everyone's chatting about, take a moment to ask yourself what else might be on your mind. But, here's the thing, it's not just the outside information that can be tricky. The real danger often lies within, in those thoughts and feelings that influence our decisions. If you want to be a bit more shielded from modern-day manipulation, it's good to learn to recognize your own biases. Ask yourself why you think the way you do, and what experiences might be influencing your perspective. It's totally normal to have your own beliefs and ideas that you've accepted without questioning. The best way to break free from manipulation is not to isolate yourself, but to train your mind so that you become an easy target instead of avoiding manipulation. Learn to see it in real time instead of reacting immediately. Learn to observe instead of consume passively. Decide actively what information enters your mind and what doesn't. The modern world is designed for reactions to you, not for thinking about yourself. Participate in narratives that you didn't design. If you want to regain control, you've got to be more intelligent than the system. Pay attention to viral news, and don't let it control you. Pay attention to things that cause you an immediate reaction, and don't let them control you. Pay attention to things that make you feel like you're being taken to a conclusion without really thinking about it, and don't let that control you. The only way to not be manipulated is to control your own mind. If you don't, then someone else will decide for you. In the final chapter, you'll learn why you run a man. When you're in a rush, you might hail a taxi, give the address, and look at your phone. But please, don't look where they are not paying attention. The driver might take a while to find the way, and suddenly, they might seem confused. You might start to worry, where are we going? The taxi driver smiles and says, you only told me the address. But they never told them how they wanted to get there. This can be really overwhelming, especially if you're not familiar with the area. The path the taxi driver takes might seem long and confusing, and it might seem like it doesn't make sense. Then, you might realize. Have you ever thought about how you've been living for years, uploading to taxes without looking where they are going, letting life take its course without wondering if that's really the path you want? And how many times have we done what we're born to do without realizing it? We're in a race we don't choose, but we run it with despair. We want to get somewhere, but we don't even wonder if it's the place where we want to grow with ideas that we don't question. We all have those things we really want to do, but we're not quite sure how to go about doing them. We've been taught that the only way to succeed in life is to follow the rules, but we haven't asked who created those rules. We've been led to believe that life is a set of goals that we have to achieve to be accepted, and that if we don't achieve them, we're doomed to failure. We've been sold on the idea that there's only one way to live, and so we spend our years running towards goals that others chose for us. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself if the path you're on is the right one? I'd like to know, do these goals truly belong to you, or are they just reflections of what the world has taught you? How often have you made a decision, thinking it was yours, when it was just a reflection of other people's expectations? Real manipulation doesn't come from the media, governments, or advertising. It comes from your own beliefs about the life you're living. You've taught us that success is about money, recognition, and stability. But, my friend, who decided that the meaning of life is to accumulate and ascend to fit in with what we've been told? If you don't want to play that game, that's okay. The problem isn't that society manipulates you. It's that you've been so influenced by it that you don't even realize it. Can you think of anything you've done in your life without knowing why? Can you think of any wishes you've made without realizing it? These things aren't really yours, but they've been implanted in you without your awareness. Can you think of any decisions you've made believing that you were making them freely? Have you ever stopped to think about how you've been living? It might feel like you're just following a program you set up before you had a chance to really understand yourself. Take a moment to look closely at this. It's important to remember that the world often encourages us to focus on things that might seem important but don't always add up to true fulfillment. We are told to study hard, get a good job, start a family, buy a house, travel the world, and accumulate experiences. But what does success really look like? Who decided what that means for you? I know it can be tough to figure out what you really want in life, but the answer is actually pretty simple. It's all about the system, society, family, culture, religion, the economy, social networks, and so on. Everything in our world is designed to keep us running after something, right? We're always feeling like we're missing something, like we need more, like we're not enough. It's like the game is rigged so that we always feel empty. Sex is one of the most powerful mechanisms of manipulation out there. It's made us believe that sex is a goal, that pleasure is a goal, and that validation through the body is everything. The adult industry has transformed the way we think about sex, turning it into something we can buy and sell. It's important to remember that brands don't just use bodies to make money, they use them to sell products. It's no surprise that the most popular content is often sexual in nature. People often use terms like promiscuity or oppression to describe different sexual behaviors, but these are just labels. We should all be free to express ourselves sexually, but unfortunately, this isn't always the case. Some people are obsessed with sex, while others are terrified of even thinking about it. And some people use sex as a tool to gain power. It's important to understand that everyone is different, and we should respect each other's personal choices. Let's talk about something that's been on my mind. Have you ever noticed how human desire has become a consumer machine? And religion is just another way to manipulate us. It doesn't matter what you think, who you trust, or what dogma you follow. It's all about fear of punishment and the promise of reward. We blindly obey a belief system that rarely questions itself. Since the dawn of humanity, faith has been used as a form of control. You don't need chains if you can convince someone of what their duty is. Hey, have you ever thought about how many of our beliefs might be a bit too limiting? Like, have you ever thought about how we might be missing out on some of life's beauty and joy by focusing too much on what's sinful or wrong? And have you ever considered that following rules just because someone told you to might be taking away from the joy of life? No matter if you believe in a God or not, it's important to remember that our mental struggles are all part of the human experience. We all have our own way of doing things, and it's okay to explore and question those beliefs. It's not about following a religion, it's about finding the joy and fulfillment in life. Approval of others, we all want to feel validated and recognized for who we are. Obsession with followers, reactions, networks, and social media, it's important to be aware of how these platforms can sometimes manipulate our egos. We might feel like we have power, but the truth is, they are just maintaining a sense of community. Fashion is another form of control. One day, they tell us to dress a certain way, and the next day, they tell us to think a certain way. It's interesting how they can change our speech so easily. It's understandable that people don't always realize that they're making choices. We all have our own unique identities, but sometimes we might not realize that we're just following the path that's been laid out for us. When things change, we might find ourselves adapting without even thinking too much about it. We might ask ourselves, how many trends have I continued without realizing it? Or how many things have I done just because it was the norm, because everyone else was doing it, because it's what's expected? We should ask ourselves, how much of me is truly my own, and how much is a reflection of the world around me? Hey, have you ever thought about how taxes are not really the problem? It's more like we've been tricked into thinking we're free when, in reality, we're just following a plan that someone else made for us. One day, you'll realize that everything you've been chasing, everything you've believed, and everything you've done wasn't really your choice. It was the result of a system that made you follow a certain path, not because you chose it yourself. Society taught you to run without asking where, just like a child does. They told you what you should want, what you should do, and what you should avoid. They sold the idea of success and the idea of failure, and never wondered if those definitions were really yours. Look at your life now and ask yourself how many things I have done just because they did so. Maybe you studied a career that doesn't fill you, but it was the right thing at the time. You're part of a religion, even though you don't fully believe. Maybe you're in a relationship that's not making you happy, but you're already putting so much time into it. Or, you might be working on something you really don't like, but it's the only way to pay the bills. If you stop and leave, you're afraid of what might happen. But you need to realize that you don't have to play this game or run behind anyone's validation or acceptance. You have the power to set your own rules and decide what your life means to you. The meaning of life is not about collecting things or being the most popular. It's not about doing what everyone expects of you. The meaning of life is not about being afraid when you go to sleep and not waking up with anxiety in the morning. When you understand this, you become untouchable. You can't be manipulated by fear anymore because you no longer need the security they promise. You can't be manipulated by desire because you no longer need to. You can fill a void with things external to you. You can no longer be manipulated by guilt because you no longer follow rules imposed by others, so you're only those that you choose to be free. You can choose to be free by not doing what you want to, not being a slave of anything or anyone, and not even of your own thoughts. Now, what if you have arrived at this place of freedom? So far, you have seen manipulation from all angles. You have understood how a thought is implanted in your mind, how emotions can be used to make you react, and how social structures have been designed to keep people in control. I know it can be tempting to run without questioning, but I really want to talk to you about something that's actually important. What are you going to do with this information? Just knowing something doesn't necessarily mean you're free. There are so many people who understand how the game works and still continue to be trapped in it, living with resentment because they see the trap but don't know how to get out. They believe they are awake but keep reacting like the system. They want to seek validation, continue to be tied to fear, and chase things that aren't actually necessary. Hey, I just wanted to remind you that waking up isn't about seeing the manipulation. It's about letting it go and deciding that you're not going to play the game by the rules they set for you. It's not about running away from what's not yours. It's about not giving up in the middle of the race and asking yourself what you truly want, not what others might want you to want, not what society might praise, but what you have taught yourself to desire. This is a question that a lot of people don't ask themselves because they haven't had the chance to live life on their own yet, or they're stuck in a routine. Hey, I totally get it. Your identity is tricky. We all have our own unique existence, and it's easy to feel like we don't have a grasp on who we really are. But you know what? That's okay. We can't always know everything, and that's totally understandable. But here's the cool part, now that you're aware, you're in a position to make changes. Every choice you make, every thought you have, and every feeling you experience is a chance to ask yourself, am I truly myself, or is this just a program? If you can ask yourself that question all the time, and stay aware of how the world tries to, you can achieve something that very few people reach by being open to influence. Having a mind that is unwavering doesn't mean that you'll never be influenced. It means that when you're open to it, you'll be able to recognize it, and that will make all the difference. Now that you know, the final question is, will you continue running, or will you take control of your life for the first time? Because if you don't decide today, someone else will decide for you, as has been done until now. Applause.